Ooh-wee, look what we got here. Let me show you where I got this.
Are you lacking a sense of purpose? We'd like to offer you a jorb. What is a jorb, you ask? Well, a jorb is your gateway to feeling useful in life. You'll have the opportunity to walk down hallways with other human beings, talk, pound things, work. You will not make money. The money will be ours. The benefits of the experience, of the essence of the jorb, is yours. So join us today, the Jorb Workforce, where we keep the cash and you keep the emotional rewards. Do yourself a favor. Go out there and get a jorb today.
But first, I'm going to explain what Increlex is, why it works better than regular IGF-1, and where you can find it and how you can make it. So let's get into it. I was going to call this video Tom Segura Explains Increlex, but, you know, lawsuits and such. Anyway, what is Increlex? Increlex is a special form of IGF-1. It uses bioidentical IGF-1 as its main ingredient. But what makes it different is the way that it's formulated causes it to last much longer in your system. Bioidentical IGF-1 in its regular form, without any additions to it, like IGF-1 LR3, IGF-1 DES, these are all modified IGF-1s that are not 70 amino acids. They're 83 or some other form of amino acid to cause them to last longer in your system. Now, Increlex is an unmodified IGF-1, but they've mechanically figured out how to extend the half-life in your system. How did they do this? Well, I realized that's what they had done after I had done the same thing for oxytocin. And I got to thinking, why is this what it is? And by God, it sure was. So I found package insert description, Increlex. IGF-1 consists of 70 amino acids in a single chain. The amino acid sequence of the product is identical to that of endogenous human IGF-1. Each multi-dose vial of Increlex contains 10 milligrams per milliliter mecasermin, 9 milligrams per milliliter benzyl alcohol, 5.84 milligrams per milliliter sodium chloride, 2 milligrams per milliliter polysorbate 20. We're coming back to that one. Anyway, that's what it is, folks. And now, why is this important? Now, every box of Increlex is actually 4 milliliters, so it's 40 milligrams of IGF-1. And this helps to explain why it's so damn expensive, right? For example, I was thinking about doing an experiment with IGF-1 recently, so I looked on Paradigm's website. They're out of stock, but this price that I saw wasn't terrible compared to what we used to have access to back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, when I was really researching this. But it's 1 milligram for $65. In a vial of Increlex, it's 40 milligrams. So take 40 times 30, take 40 times, or better yet, you know, a bottle of Insubolic is 5 milligrams. So you'd take 8 of those. So at $150 times 8, right? So there's your equal to 1 Increlex bottle. Also, the dosage. The dosage is the problem. Oh my, same problem we have with growth hormone. In other words, how much should you use? How much can you afford, right? So I don't use any these days, but I did back in the day, and you know, the cheap Chinese stuff is still pretty affordable. So, but recommended starting dose 0.04 to 0.08 milligrams per kilogram. That's 40 to 80 micrograms per kilogram. Okay, well, I'm 100 kilograms. So I'm going to take this period and I'm going to move it here and here. That makes 4 milligrams a day to start for kids. 4 milligrams a day, up to 8 milligrams a day. So at the very least, you're going to be going through an entire bottle of Insubolic every day to mimic the results, to mimic the recommendations for kids. Okay? So people wonder why they're not growing off of IGF-1. Number one, you're not taking very much compared to what you're supposed to be taking. Number two, you're not taking anything that works. Now, the Insubolic should work just fine. But like I said, you'd be taking a whole bottle of it a day. Do you want to do that? I don't. So that's the thing with, and that's why they have it in a water preparation. That's why they, it's a lot easier to inject or it's just a lot easier to work with. Injecting castor oil is slow. It's painless. It's effective, but it's very slow. So there's the problem, folks. You're going to need a whole lot of it. So I looked it up, and I contacted a couple of chemical suppliers, and I said, yes, we have IGF-1, IGF-1, quantity, 1 gram, okay? Price, $7,050. Have at it. So I wrote them back, and I said, hey, how about we just do 10 milligrams just to give it a try? And they said, no, our minimum order is 100 milligrams, and that'll be $1,200. So instead of being $7.05 per milligram, it's, what is it, $12 or something like that. And you want to take 4 milligrams a day, so that's $60 a day. I don't know. I guess if I was rich, I might give it a try. But that's why Increlex is so expensive. You can make it. I can make it. Anybody can make it. It's easy. All you got to do is just add a little bit of castor oil in the right proportions, and it's easy as can be. But the problem is locating a source for real bioidentical IGF-1 at an affordable price to make that worth doing. Because you're going to be, as a bodybuilder, you're going to want to go through 5 or 6 milligrams a day. And that's a lot. So you go through 5 or 6 milligrams a day, even at, let's say you get it down to $6 a milligram, $36 a day. I guess that, that might be getting close to it, but you're going to have to order a kilogram or more to get that price. So if you know of a source that is just plain old giving away bioidentical IGF-1, hit me up, please. Go to ultimateformulations.com and hit the contact us and let me know. So the thumbnail says, eat your heart out, Steve. I've got an unlimited supply of Increlex. Well, here's my supply of Increlex. I found the label. This is the registered government label. It's got the expiration date space, all the information. You'd have to change some things if you wanted to be shisty and try to sell fake Increlex, which I think I found someone who is, but I'm not throwing stones. If you've bought their Increlex and you've gotten some good out of it, well, let me know. But this is the label, and sure enough, mecassermin, benzyl alcohol, glacial acetic acid, that was that one we were talking about, acetic acid, polysorbate 20. Okay, now here's the deal. Mecassermin, that's IGF-1, 40 milligrams. That's a shitload. Benzyl alcohol, that's a solvent and an antibacterial. Glacial acetic acid, same thing. It's a water-soluble acetic acid. Well, it's an acetic acid. Come back to polysorbate 20. Sodium acetate, same type of thing. Sodium chloride, these are purifiers. These are preservatives, okay? And water for injection. The only thing that is making this any different, really, to regular IGF-1 that you can buy off of whatever peptide website, if you're talking bioidentical, not DES, not LR3, the only thing that makes this different is that polysorbate 20 right here. Polysorbate 20 is a thickener used in ice creams, used in gels, used in all kinds of different things. It mechanically slows the dissolution of the injection. So just like I did the same thing with my hands. This is what it looks like in a subcutaneous injection, especially if it's oil. It looks like a little pancake and it spreads like this. So it does that more slowly when there's polysorbate 20 as opposed to just bacteriostatic water. Mean total IGF-1 concentrations after a single subcutaneous dose of Increlex in children with severe blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I said it. So, mean IGF-1. Okay, here's your injection time. Normally, this is 6 hours later. Normally, this would be in and out of your system from here to here. We could even track it. Well, we could, but it would just drop quick. And so it seems to peak around, what, 2 hours, let's say? Yeah. So it peaks at 2 hours, and we've still got half potency at almost 12 hours later. 10 hours, let's say. So a half-life of 9 or 10 hours, a peak after 2 hours. That's a pretty good result. And that's from just adding in a small portion of polysorbate 20 to the mix. Now, I think there's a better method. I think we could do a lot better and get a lot longer half-life with castor bean oil and DMSO. If you don't like the DMSO, if you happen to be watching this, Steve, don't write me off just for that. There's other ways. IGF-1 is very water soluble. It's also soluble in, benzyl alcohol, obviously, straight corn ethanol. So you could use castor oil and straight corn ethanol as long as you got your proportions right and had enough just to solubilize the IGF-1, and that would provide its own antibacterial, and then the rest of the portion could be in castor oil. So if you want to make super IGF-1, you can do that at home doing what I just said. And I'll just throw up the title with a little descriptor on there. But basically all it is a thick oil with a little bit of solvent in it. So what's the final takeaway here? You can make your own Increlex at home. You have an unlimited supply of it. There are good sources out there that, I don't know if they've matched this with the cost of actual Increlex, but there's also very questionable sources. Let's take a look at this real quick. This is off of Power Horse Vet. That's a real website, huh? And anyway, they've got Increlex for sale. $500 for a vial, I'm assuming. We've got 10 milligrams per milliliter. I'm assuming they're saying that there's 4 milliliters in there. That'd be a pretty good deal. 40 milligrams for $500. That's cheaper than you can get the actual raw materials wholesale. So just a heads up. Please don't order from this place. I appreciate one of my viewers sent me the link, and I do appreciate the link. And they said, "Hey, I don't have any. I never deal with these guys. This is just something I saw." And I said, "Okay, cool." But yeah, please don't order from this link. This looks like complete garbage. I don't think that's real. I love Paradigm Peptides. Good deal on oxytocin. I'm not affiliated with them, but they've treated me right. They ship quickly. But yeah, I don't think 1 milligram is going to do you a lot of good. You'd have to buy 5 bottles, and I don't know. I mean, you might get something out of it, but if they're dosing this at, the equivalent of 4 or 5 milligrams a day for kids, I don't think you're going to see, at 1/5 the dose. I mean, if you went through a bottle a day, and we're not going to do that. And we'll see what happens. But I did discover some interesting things, and I'm going to get into it in a full video. But after all the bad news that I've given you about Increlex and about IGF-1 and why it's a shit idea unless you've got, somebody that's stolen a truckload of it or some crazy thing, this is just a small discovery for now. I'm kind of working on a little, amateur thesis about this, but oxytocin promotes long-term potentiation by enhancing epidermal growth factor receptor mediated blah, 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 blah. But basically, we're talking about epidermal growth factor. Now, epidermal growth factor is very interesting. And despite the sound of the name, it's in our plasma, in our blood, it's in different places in the body, and it does have some very interesting properties that make me believe that like this says here, our research suggests that human epidermal growth factor serves as a critical growth factor in enhancing in vitro, which means lab tested in a petri dish, skeletal muscle cell proliferation and differentiation during myogenesis and advances human skeletal muscle engineered tissue towards a more native adult skeletal. Yes. So it may have a very strong role as its own growth factor. It might not be insulin-like growth factor, but it may have very strong, hyperplasia, proliferation and differentiation those are two big things when it comes to new muscle tissue. So I'm not going to show you my thighs because they're pasty white and kind of fat, but I was looking in the mirror last night and I thought, I've never had good legs, and I'm starting to almost look like I have decent legs. So that's just since I've been using that oxytocin injectable and slow release, right? So a little bit of hope on the horizon. I hope this made sense. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, ask me questions, interact. That's what this is all about. Let's keep learning.